It was hard because your body goes through these changes and people remember you as like, you know, this really fit gymnast, and they're like, oh, like what happened?
Hey guys, it's Kirbie. Welcome back to Pretty Unfiltered. Today I have two guests, as you can see. They are Olympic gold medalists. We have Nastia Liukin and Jordyn Wieber. Wieber fever. I could say that all day long. Ladies, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
And today they are talking about being a female in the sports world, and I think they know it better than anyone else. So I just have to say, when I watch gymnastics, the first thing I notice is how poised and graceful you guys are, and I'm like, I trip over air.
In real life, so do we. Except when we're like in our zone and at the Olympics.
That makes me feel a lot better. Is there anything that you tell people like, okay, listen, I might nail it on the floor, but I blank, like do this in real life?
I feel like you trip all the time, like going upstairs or just on the sidewalk, like.
Yeah. Also, people don't see behind the scenes and how many times we fall on beam before we actually hit a routine.
There's also this other component, which is like your hair and makeup. Were you guys ever trained on that? Like, how did they come? Like, how did you guys even learn how to do your hair and stuff?
It's tricky. It's hard because you're flying through the air, but your hair has to stay in, but you want it to look cute, but it needs to be like gelled back. So, I mean, I wish I knew as much about like hair and makeup back when I was competing as I do now, because I just slicked back my ponytail as tight as I could.
I mean, I wore a hot pink leotard and a matching pink scrunchie, so that was my extent of knowing. It's funny though, looking back, like this last Olympic Games, like they were wearing like red lipstick, and I don't know about you, I never did that. I wore like a little bit of gold eyeshadow, mascara, and like lip gloss. Like I never wore lipstick. I think now, obviously, if I would be competing, it'd be a little bit different. But again, you don't want to be wearing like lashes and be concerned that when you're flipping on a 4-inch wide balance beam, you're like, oh my God, I have a lash in my eye. So yeah, obviously your focus is your gymnastics, your performance, but then at the same time, it is about presenting yourself because it's a subjective sport. It's the whole look, it's the presentation. It's from stepping onto the floor and your starting pose to when you stick that landing.
And you guys don't have hair and makeup artists. Like you're not like being like touted around the world with someone that's like, okay, next. Like you guys have to do it yourselves, which I don't think a lot of people actually think about. That's time consuming as well.
Because I think the Olympics, obviously, like millions and millions of people are watching, so they're like, oh, well, they must get their hair and makeup done.
They're on TV.
Yeah,
that's
on TV.
That's not till after the Olympics.
What would you two say your personas were like at the Olympics versus in real life? Did they change?
Different.
Really?
So different.
I think we were both very like
very intense, very
stoic,
focused,
serious.
You know, we always call it getting in our zone, like that very serious attitude that we have when we're on the competition floor. That's what we needed to do. And now that we're apart from gymnastics for a little while, I think we've sort of blossomed into our personalities and, you know, figured out who we are apart from the sport that was, you know, basically defined us for so long.
Totally.
Like when people meet us now, they're like, oh, well, on TV you looked like kind of like not very nice because you're like so serious and so focused. But again, I feel like there was always two sides of us, because to do the things that we did at the Olympics, when you're representing your country, when you have one shot, you have to be focused, you have to be serious. But then like even when we stepped outside the competition floor and when we were just like in our hotel rooms and roommates and all of that, then you know we definitely were fun and had personalities and all that. But I think now that we're done competing, we have that even more so now.
And I think you actually touched on a really interesting point. I feel like when women are focused and they're competing, they come off like, oh, what a bitch, or like, oh, she must be a delight or something. But like with men, it's like, oh, business as usual.
Yeah,
and I think it's a really unfair thing to say, especially when it comes to men and women, right?
I'm with you. I think so too. When men are competing, whether it's gymnastics or football or basketball, like they're serious, they're in their zone. But then when women do it, it's kind of like exactly like you said, like, oh, she must not be very nice or pleasant to be around. But it is the same thing. It's our like in the zone, our focused, stoic kind of face.
So you both have very strong, beautiful bodies, but were you always confident in your bodies?
No. I mean, growing up, going to high school, I looked like, I had the body of a little boy, basically. I was just like solid muscle.
Yeah.
My biceps were probably bigger than a lot of the boy kids at my school. So obviously it's something you feel kind of uncomfortable about. You're like, I don't look like all the rest of the girls in my school.
Yeah.
I have to practice 7 hours a day. You're just not a normal high school student, and your body doesn't look the same, but at the same time, that's what we got as a product of all the hard work we put in, and that's what got us the Olympics. So
Exactly.
yeah.
I had such a different body. Like, I was the one that wasn't strong because I had to work so hard to just be able to get strong enough
She
to
was
do my
really
gymnastics.
flexible.
Yeah, I wasn't more flexible. Jordyn was more strong and could do like tumbling skill and like passes and stuff that like I could never even dream about doing because I just didn't have that physical strength. But then, that's why like bars and beam were a little bit more of my strengths. But still the same thing. I mean, for somebody to tell you like your muscles or, the opposite of being like, you're like too skinny and you're too fragile and you're never gonna be good because you're not strong, so it goes both ways, and it's just as hurtful if somebody tells you that you're overweight and just as hurtful if someone tells you that you're underweight. So I think sometimes people don't realize that, and it really affects people either way.
Yeah, there's both sides of the story for
Yeah.
sure. Is there a physical pressure that's put on you as a gymnast to look a certain way?
Absolutely.
Even now, I think because we're both retired, not being a competitive gymnast, people do remember us as gymnasts, and so there still is that expectation to be in shape, to kind of be, or to look like that 16-year-old gymnast that we did like 10, 12 years ago. We're like, okay, we're not that person anymore. Yes, we're like athletes.
But that must be very, very tiresome to have to deal with that type of pressure.
It is, and I think we all went through that. I mean, it's human nature, right? To
Yeah.
kind of go through these body changes. And so I remember that being hard because that was the first time in my life after the Olympics where I wasn't training 7 hours a day anymore. I was kind of eating, whatever I wanted, and it was hard because your body goes through these changes, and people remember you as like, this really fit gymnast, and they're like, oh, like what happened, and it's like, okay, I'm going through this.
Okay, I have to ask this. This is a personal question. How in the world do you guys handle body hair? Y'all's outfits, I'm truly amazed. Like, I literally will go get waxes and be like, make me look however they
Make me look like a gymnast.
I mean, honestly, it is like truly amazing. Like, have you ever had any like funny stories, like embarrassing moments as a gymnast?
Wedgies, like that's happened, and people always ask like, how do you keep your leotard from like sliding up your butt?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Some people use like sticky spray on their butt. I never used
Me neither.
that, but like
we wear under leotard, so that kind of holds it
helps.
in place.
But still, there have been times like if you fall or like there are certain like materials of leotards that just like don't
right up.
stay. Yeah, and you're like doing a skill and you're like, okay, my butt is hanging out of my leotard right now. But
one time I actually saluted the judge for my bar routine, picked my wedgie, and then started my bar routine, and I got deducted for it.
Are you serious?
I was like probably 8 or 9 years old, but still.
You're like, what?
lesson learned. Pick
That
your
is
wedgie after you salute.
So you guys have essentially been training your entire lives. So what's it like to be a gymnast and go through puberty at such an extreme competitive level?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Once your body hits puberty, you can no longer eat whatever you want. Your metabolism is so high that, I mean, every girl goes through that, but when you're training as an athlete, you really have to focus in on eating the most healthy diet you can possibly eat after you hit puberty. And
Totally.
it's, also you go through this growth spurt. So maybe you grow 2-3 inches, and most people are like, oh, no big deal. But for gymnasts, when you're swinging in between two bars,
Gonna ask.
all of a sudden you start
Yeah.
kicking the bar, and that's a little bit of an adjustment too, but it just takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication.
Can I just say, you guys are retired.
I hate
And
that
what?
word.
You're
I know, I hate it
you're
too.
22
That's why I'm always
and
like,
you're 27.
retired.
Like, you're retired. So
Yeah.
like, that's kind of amazing in my opinion.
Retired from our first careers.
Yes, first career.
Yeah.
So then how does your body kind of change when you're not going through that? I mean,
Yeah.
I can imagine it probably changes a little bit because you're not going
For
through the
sure.
training.
The first time that after the 2008 Olympics, I took some time off and then started training again, but between that time when I did take time off, I gained like 25 to 30 pounds. And then, you know, slowly when I got back in the gym, not all of it came off, obviously, because I did go through puberty, and so that wouldn't really be healthy to be that same weight that I was before that. But yeah, I mean, you grow inches, you gain weight, you kind of go through the same thing, the normal things that everybody goes through, except you have to be in a leotard. And so it's kind of like, you lose your confidence because you're not used to looking like that. It's not about just like being skinny, right? It's about being strong. And I think that there are different ways to be beautiful, and it's not just about being skinny or a size 0. It's really just about being strong and confident in your own skin.
Amen. I love that answer, Nastia. Great job. Okay, so I want to talk about like your personal inspirations. Who did you guys look up to growing up?
I looked up to Nastia.
That's amazing.
She was in the Olympics before me, and I so vividly remember going to a national team camp, and we were in Nastia's room, and I thought it was so cool because I was in Nastia's room, and she was telling us stories about the 2008 Olympics. This is after she came back, and I was just listening and, you know, taking it all in. But I always just looked up at the Olympians that came before me, and being able to be at camp with her and train with her and listen to her stories, that meant the world to me. And that's what inspired me.
And now you guys are friends. This is awesome. What's one message that you have for women who are in male-dominated sports?
So many people always told me that I was too skinny, or I wasn't strong enough, or I was always something not enough. And I think as a female and as a woman, we are all strong, and we are good enough, and we're good enough to do our sports and to be just as good as the men, and maybe not physically being able to do some of the skills that the men do, but we can be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And so just to be proud of that, and to compete against yourself. I think, you know, sometimes I remember when I was younger, I'd always try to be better than somebody else, but if I can just focus on myself and going out and doing the best performance that I can do, as opposed to like watching someone else and being like, what do I have to do to beat her? That kind of helped me.
Okay, my last question is, do you have a favorite Olympics memory that maybe a lot of people wouldn't recall or remember or associate with you?
We were eating lunch one day in the dining hall in the Olympic Village, and I was like, oh my gosh, Michael Phelps is over there. That's Michael Phelps. And so we're like, okay, like let's all go say hi. And we the dining hall there is enormous. So we had to walk pretty much.
It's like 2 football fields or something.
We had to walk.
It's very, it's very big.
But I swore I saw Michael Phelps from across the dining hall. So we, all 5 of us, our whole team, walked over there, and once we got up to the table, I was like, that's not Michael Phelps. That's not Michael Phelps. And it was just so awkward. We were like,
yeah, where do you go from here?
They were swimmers. Okay, they were Olympic swimmers. So we
still asked for
we were just like, hey, like, we're the gymnasts. We introduced ourselves. And
Wait, that's amazing.
So funny. We ended up being friends with them afterwards, but it was just really funny.
You're like, so like, do you guys know Michael? Is he here?
That is hysterical. Okay, ladies, so you're actually here to promote something. Jump, Jive, and Thrive.
Yeah.
Right? Did I get it right? Okay, good. Tell us a little bit more about that.
We're both going to be performing at this, it's a live event on October 8th at UCLA, so it'll be a lot of fun. There's going to be gymnasts and dancers and musical performances, and then it'll also be on TV October 21st on CBS. But
yeah, and the show is also honoring breast cancer survivors, so it's pretty close to my heart because our head coach at UCLA, Miss Val, she fought and survived breast cancer a couple of years ago, and she's taught me so much. Her courage and her strength is incredible. So this is just a tribute to not only Miss Val but all the breast cancer survivors. So we're going to perform.
It sounds like a great cause. Yeah. Awesome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys opening up. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you have suggestions for upcoming guests. Ladies, where can we find you online?
Instagram and Twitter at Nastia Liukin.
And at Jordyn_Wieber.
Perfect. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.